last week, we were discussing these adeshas. Adeshas, remember, they are these illustrations, as it were. They help a person who lacks the capacity to understand the upadeshas. The upadeshas are more advices, Guru's direct advices to the disciple. Whereas the adeshas are more illustrations taken from the world, like examples, as it were, taken from the world. They all are attempting to convey the supreme reality, convey the self. So we'll understand that in the first analogy, we talked about the lightning, low, that flash of lightning relating to the cosmos, Adidevatam. So that experience is what is happening to all of us in the world. That flash of consciousness, remember we talked as it being between two thoughts. We gave that graph, that sine wave diagram. So he talks about, it's in the book, so you don't need to worry about it. He talks about that flash, that like the lightning. It happens so quick, and afterwards, it's as though it would have been better if it didn't happen. Not really, but that flash is so bright. You see everything so clearly for a split second, and then you're in darkness again. You can even argue you're in greater darkness because your vision is obscured. And this is the same. That Atman is there, and you're passing through that Atman. Well, that Atman is there, but in between every thought, that Atman is there. You strike that x-axis. That's the Atman. But it's happening so quickly that you miss it. You don't see it. We gave the example of the projector, the movies in the good old days. They were on a film projector, right? And basically, they're just thousands, hundreds and thousands of still pictures. And when you pass them through a projector, a mechanism, it goes at a certain speed and gives the illusion of a moving picture. That's how movies work. So similarly, the pictures, which we can compare as the thoughts, are moving so quickly that we don't see the underlying light, because there's a white light that projects. Between every picture, a white light is there. We never see that. Nobody ever sees that. And it's the same thing. So that's the first analogy. Now he talks about this second analogy. That which is like the blinking of eyes low. So in this analogy, they are referring to the experience of an enlightened person, somebody who has realized the self. Now, all of you, I'm sure, understand blinking. You know blinking. Now, what happens when you blink? Now, when you blink, it's not that you miss anything in the world. The blinking is very quick. You could be talking to someone, you could be looking at something, even while you're driving your car. You blink. You don't miss anything. There's this continuity that exists, even with the blinking. And this is exactly the state of an enlightened person. So an enlightened person is continually experiencing that self. The experience is continuous, just as when you're awake and your eyes are open and you're looking and you're observing the world, even with blinking, you don't miss anything, as it were. So the experience of an enlightened person is most constant, most persistent. Because you'll say, or you may ask, the enlightened person is still going through these perceptions and actions, emotions and thoughts in the world, which is true. You see the enlightened person functioning in the world, and he has feelings, she has feelings, they're acting, they're seeing things, they're watching a movie, they are intellectually analyzing, processing. So all of that is there, right? But they never lose that constant identification with the self. Just as you don't lose that contact with the world when you're looking at the world, even though you're blinking. So the blink for an enlightened person is those perceptions, actions, emotions, and thought. That contact with the body, mind, and intellect. It doesn't break their lapse. It doesn't lapse that consistency that they have being in touch with the self. So in other words, there's no, they don't lose cognition with the self. It's always there. Constantly it's there. Even while they're going through all these mundane experiences. So, second analogy. Blinking of the eyes. That is closer. So we could say that relates to Adi Bhotikam. Yeah, but it's still the world, right? Then he gets on to the last analogy. Now, the last analogy he talks about is oneself, and this relates to the individual. Now, as regards oneself, that is, as the mind constantly entertains thoughts, so does it go to this. Now, you'll appreciate that the mind can jump forwards and backwards in time. You can project something happening in the future, what you're going to perhaps do tomorrow or next week, or maybe you've got a trip coming up. The mind can go there. Likewise, the mind can go back into the past. So the mind has this capacity to travel in time. It can also go in space. So you can think of any place and you can literally, your thoughts can take you there. So just as these flashes are going, and the mind is going here and there, so does the Atman appear and disappear in the human experience. And we can talk about this as, even just entertaining that thought of the Atman. How spiritual are you? Well, how many times in the day does that thought of the Atman punctuate all the other chaotic thoughts that you have? Would be once, might not be any, maybe a few times. So that thought is constantly appearing and disappearing. So does for the individual, the Atman disappear and appear. You specifically engage in spiritual or religious practices so that you have that God appear, as it were. But it's constantly appearing and disappearing, just as the mind is constantly jumping backwards and forwards. So this refers to oneself. So the whole idea is that as soon as you are able to drop the desires, you realize the self. So these three deshas are chosen to represent that outer cosmos, the object, the world, and then the subject, the individual. All in an attempt to highlight what is this supreme reality? What is Brahman? Again, educating us on that pure consciousness, that permanent state of absolute peace and bliss. again, remember that constant theme that we should not mistake these higher levels of experience, that apogee of intellectual satisfaction, the peak of devotion. We should not mistake those terrestrial experiences as being related to the experience of enlightenment, because they still exist on the terrestrial plane. Okay.
तद्धतद्वनं नाम तद्वनमित्युपासितव्यं स य एतदेवं वेदाभिहैनगो सर्वाणि भूतानि संवाञ्छन्ति.
That is worshipful indeed, which is known as Tadvanam. That should be meditated upon. All beings very much love him indeed, who knows it thus. So he says here, the instruction is that should be meditated upon. What should be meditated upon? Tadvanam. You must meditate on Tadvanam as the worshipful self in all beings. What all that fancy language to mean? He who meditates on the self ultimately merges with the self. How? By seeing the self everywhere. See, a person who's merged with the self sees the self in every being. Very different from our experience. See, in our experiences, we see demarcations, divisions. The self-realized doesn't see that. Having meditated on that worshipful reality, that Brahman, he attains enlightenment. He recognizes the self in everyone and sees everyone, not just everyone, all living beings as the self. Therefore, he is loved by all. See, what you have to appreciate is that the world is almost like a mirror. Because you may think, how is a self-realized person loved by all? And you'll see there the diagram there in the book. The world is like a mirror. It goes world mirror. You love all love you. It's reciprocal. So whatever you put out, you get back. So if you are able to increase the love you have, that identification with one and all, so that is reciprocated. You never find that a person who is genuine outpouring of love only gets hatred back. It would be absurd. But the world doesn't function like that. So it's like a mirror. So to reflect your own personality. So to the extent that you have developed love, to that extent is reciprocated. So the strength of your love is reciprocated. Now you may say, no, but I love everybody, everything. In fact, Craig, I am vegetarian even. I even love the animals that much. I don't want to eat them, But people are sometimes so mean to me. You see, your love is not determined by how many people you love and how much you love them, or how many beings you've loved and not harmed. Your love is determined by what? Anybody? The strength of your love is determined by what? Anyway, whatever you claim, I love all beings. I love my community. I love so much. Does that determine the strength of your love? What is it that determines the strength of your love?
is it not being affected by anything, so, or anyone? So whether you love them or not, like whatever the reaction is, doesn't affect you.
It's something slightly different. That's more self-sufficient, and you could argue that you develop self-sufficiency, you will have a greater sense of love. You could.
Craig, lack of expectations.
Lack of the strength of your love. So the less expectations you have, the more you love. At a push, how unselfish or selfless one is, yes. But the strength, the actual strength of your love. Devotion. I'll give you a clue. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. You heard that. Everyone must have heard. The chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So therefore, how strong is your love? That one person, I don't like that person. That's the strength of your love. I can't stand being in the same room as that person. They better not come here. That's the level of your love. There's no good walking around about the town claiming you are this great lover of all creatures, and next door neighbor you can't stand the sight of. In fact, this concept is enumerated in Bhagavad Gita. That gets reciprocated. So you find, and it works in degrees, it works in levels. Sorry, Michaela, you have a clarification.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so my clarification is, does the sentence, you love all in this world, all love you, also apply to animals? Or is this just for humans? Because I find sometimes animals bring so much love towards humans. I'm picturing, for instance, a dog, completely loyal dog, and nevertheless it gets kicked and it sleeps out in the cold. So how does is this not are we not romanticizing here? Is this really what happens in the world? I disagree.
No, whether you agree or disagree, the principles exist. The principle is that whatever you put out, you get back. That is simple cause and effect. You don't even have to go to philosophy. Simple science will tell you that. Put in this much force in this direction, there's always a counter force. Anything works like that in the world. Newton, third law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's not even philosophy. That's just physics. But it is roots in philosophy. Same thing, same principle applies. It's not that you love, give, and all you get back is hate. The world would be completely topsy-turvy, upside down if that was the case. So to the extent that you put out whatever, if you are a jolly, happy person, all the time cheerful, it's not that you meet negative, terrible, horrible people are always coming into your path. It doesn't happen like that. You may say, well, yeah, that's exactly what happens to me. Then you got to re-examine. And then you got to see, okay, where am I actually being negative to people that I'm getting this back? It's not that you do positive and get negative back. You got to see now, if you keep on getting negative, that means that something negative is going on. Otherwise, it doesn't match up with the laws. You see, the universe, the world is beautifully constructed. It's an orchestra in the fall of the human intellect. He says, is the melody of existence. How everything is so well constructed, these laws that hold everything in perfect position. You don't go to university and do 3 years of studying marketing. And at the end of the 3 years, they present you with an engineering degree. It doesn't work like that. The cause and effect is there. So now dogs and cats and animals, and they have feelings. Dogs can't determine the course of their action. They are only operating on mind. They don't have an intellect. So they only know certain emotions. They can only give that emotion. Now that doesn't necessarily mean a dog is always nice. A dog is a very friendly dog and gets treated badly. It's a possibility, How many dog lives was he going around chasing rabbits, eating birds, murdering, killing? You see, you can get into absurdity. You start going into that conversation. So whatever the case, if you understand how the principle functions, then you can start making sense of it.
But Craig, I mean, bad things still happen to good people all the time, So it's not what you send out, you get back immediately. It's very possible that, just to give you an example, a person has a bad childhood, gets aggravated, stabs somebody. That person that gets stabbed can be completely, well, it's got nothing directly to do with the aggression, right? The aggression is there, I agree with you. So that energy is there in the universe and it has to go somewhere, but it doesn't necessarily find a fair target. Put it like this.
Everything is fair. You get what you deserve in the world. You get what you deserve. See, to be honest, I had this question. As I said, how is this possible? A person, and there's been cases like this. I couldn't figure it out. A person from childhood done nothing. I mean, there are cases in history. The people with the best intentions, the biggest hearts, what happens to them? Assassinated. I didn't realize it, but Gandhi, Gandhi, the fellow was assassinated. I actually didn't realize it. Recently, I just got a book on Gandhi. He was assassinated. Where's the fairness in the world? Good Gandhi, all he did was serve the people. And then somebody came up to him and shot him in the chest, apparently. There's no justice in the world. You get what you deserve. That's it. You get what you deserve. See, just because you cannot correlate that cause and effect, and it's not immediate. I'll pinch you and all of a sudden there's someone behind me pinching me. It doesn't work like immediate. How many causes have you put in? See, even in this lifetime, if you remember 0.000000001 of the causes you put in, I would congratulate you. Because a cause is a thought. Even a thought is a cause. Every emotion, every action that you've performed, you won't even remember that infinitesimal. Now talk about through your whole evolution, lifetime upon lifetimes. And this was my question. I said, there are people that are doing good. And then somewhere along the line, all of a sudden that fellow gets wiped out, paralyzed from the neck down at 40. All he did was serve. Not a bad bone in his body. How's it possible? Some effect he's receiving. No. He only did good. You don't know what all he did before that even. Before. See, even to have that vision that there's something that happened before you were born. Your own personality. Nothing just appear out of thin air. Even that requires a large amount of processing, application to consider. I'm not saying believe in it, but even just to accommodate that thought requires a lot of application. So just because we cannot correlate certain causes and effects doesn't mean that that balance sheet is not meticulous. See, the universe is such that that balance sheet is meticulous. Nobody gets away. You see, that's why I sit here going, this one is corrupt, and have you seen this minister doing this thing, and this president is the most corrupt of all the thing, and just relax. Accountant there. Brahman is a chartered accountant, 5-star chartered accountant. Nothing escapes Brahman. I'm personifying Brahman now. He is the ultimate accountant. You can't get away. Even, no, but I had the quiet thought. I was by myself. Not even a serious thought, but I had this thought, and I really thought about giving that guy what, you have that thought. That thought is an input. That thought is a cause. No, but I didn't say it to anybody. I just alone time had that thought. Someone is keeping the books. So what you have to appreciate, Michaela, is that there's no chance. It was a bad day. Very bad luck. Gandhi, very bad luck he had that day. He was shot in the chest. Some other fellow had another day bad luck. Breaks his leg. It's all calculated. All perfectly, meticulously calculated. Otherwise, how do you explain it? Chance. The horoscopes were not good that day. No. God was in a bad mood. I don't know how you explain it. You get what you deserve, not what you desire. The world is constructed such. Okay.
I mean, it's quite plausible if you believe in reincarnation, I suppose. Otherwise, the other alternative would be to just say, well, the world just doesn't provide to individual desires. That's just not how the world works. So that could be another possible explanation.
Yeah, of course, your desires cannot always be catered to as independent thought. And you may say, well, I desired something and I got it. You only got it because you deserved it. You put in the right causes to eventuate that particular effect. You deserve that effect. No, but I put in all the right causes and I didn't get it because you didn't deserve it. So yeah, you can look at it that way too. Gary.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that because I feel like as human beings put our own labels on things. We often call something bad that may not be bad in the greater scheme of things. It reminds me of that poem or that story about the father with the son who breaks his leg, and then everyone's like, oh, bad luck, and next minute they come and the army want to sort of sign up soldiers, and because he's got a broken leg, I mean, you all know the story. So for me, it's also part of this whole thing is we label good and bad, and we actually don't know what is good and bad. Often bad can lead to good, and vice versa. So Gandhi being shot may seem bad in our eyes, but maybe it inspired others to do great things. We don't know. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, it's slightly off course, but yeah, I mean, slightly related to a different concept, but yeah, we can say that what is bad, what is good. Anything you get is good. It's not good. You see, something bad happens. Yes, you can argue, is it truly bad? Well, if you take it in the bigger scheme of things, not really. Okay, it's worst, you can say I'm getting rid of some bad karma. How bad can that be? In fact, that's good. Getting rid of any bad karma is good. So when bad things happen, just means that I've paid that debt off. Paid it off. Fantastic. One less load to bear. You can look at it that way. In fact, it's very helpful to look at it that way. I don't know, if I start going into how many bones I've broken in my body, you'll probably be surprised. And I couldn't figure it out why all these bones are breaking. Anyway, one fellow with a broken bone at the academy I was speaking to one of the older students, saying, how's this happening? I said, don't even worry about it, man. You're just paying some debt off, be happy. Balance is shooting up, debt is less. Good for you. And now, no, anything bad happens, less debt means more positive balance. It's good. So yeah, that is good if you look at it like that. See, how is it breaking your leg good? Otherwise, you sit there going, I don't know, how is it good? Yeah, okay, no conscription for the army coming up, so it's not good in that sense. It prevented me from exercising and prevented me from doing this and this, and you come out to the conclusion it's no good in any way. Then you sit there depressed. Because you can't figure out, with the army guy, the conscription comes around and his leg's broken, he can't go. Of course, that's like, then it's fine. I'll sit here with my broken leg. But it's not a great help when you can't see the goodness that's come out of it. And often that's the case. What is the goodness that's come out of that? You may only have its repercussions. That's what Michaela was saying. It's not instant. Maybe it only has those repercussions much later. It doesn't help you deal with it in the present. But as I said, this is a slightly different concept, going off a bit. So the world is a mirror. However much love you give, that you will get reciprocated. And it's not the claim of love. It is the weakest link of love. That one person you can't get on with, that one person you hate, detest. Anyone but them. That's the strength. In fact, that's the qualities of a bhakta. One of the qualities is the first quality, I think, in fact. He calls it as hate no being. Hate no being. Because that determines the strength of your devotion. See, devotion and love are one and the same emotions. When that emotion, that fondness, that affection, that identification goes to equal or lower beings, it's called love. I love my pets. I love my furniture. I love my partner. It's love. But when that emotion goes towards something higher, towards parents, towards your teacher, towards a guru, that is devotion. It's one and the same emotion. So devotion and love, you can see the correlation. So even to strengthen that devotion, there must be that, you must be able to cultivate that sense of love. There's no good saying, I'm a very devoted person. Puja every morning, puja every evening, temple 3 times a week, 4 times sometimes. Very devoted to God. Neighbor, I'm going to kill him when I get out. Not literally. I'm going to. I was actually just speaking to a friend. It's a little bit of a. He lives in Scotland, and had these neighbors. Oh goodness, they drug addicts or something, and they would wake up at 4 in the afternoon and play this horrendous music all night till 3, 4 the next morning and pass out. That's an exception. Anyone is going to hate that. You'd get deprived of sleep enough to hate anybody. I'm joking. He'd actually approached it very mature, the situation. The way he approached it, I was quite relieved. Eventually they got evicted, and I think actually he told me he ended up packing off and leaving. The point is even as far as devotion goes, how can you be devoted to God if you can't get along with your fellow man? I remember that poem. I don't know if you all done that poem. Abu Ben Adam. Abu Ben Adam. One night he woke up, and there, lo and behold, was an angel. Angel was writing in the book of gold. Abu said, what are you writing? What are you writing? No, I'm writing a list of all those people that love God. Love God means devotion. I'm writing a list of all the people that love God. Look, Abu is a curious fellow, Intellect must be there. Before you push off, I just want to check something. Is my name there? Nay, not so. The angel replied, it's not here. It's not here. Angel disappeared. He returned. He said, listen, maybe I'm not on that list of people who love God, but a separate list you can make. Write me down as one who loves his fellow men. Just simply, because maybe I'm not the greatest devotee of God, but for sure I love my fellow man. And the angel pushed off. And the next night he returned. The angel returned. And in that list of all the people that God loved, Abu's name led the rest. It says Abu's name led the rest. He was the top. Not because he loved God, but because he loved his fellow man. So you want to pursue the path of devotion, you got to start with your neighbor, at least. Whatever is that weakest link, start there. That's how you improve your love. No. Now I've decided to become vegan as well. Not just animals, milk as well I won't take from them. And honey from bees, certainly not. No, because I am lover of all animals and all beings. That one person. Discount all the rest. There's that one person you can't get along with. Oh, just assuming it's one person. Maybe it's 10. That's where you got to start. So yeah, anyway, you get to the point. when a person is so gross, selfish, self-centered, right? All the focus of attention is on the physical body. You find this. Those people are only concerned with desires pertaining to what can I get to please my senses? What can I get to pamper this body? This is a very poor state of being. These are generally very selfish, self-centered type persons. So everything is physical. So a person who is physical, see, even to go out and have all your needs catered to, it's near impossible. It's almost impossible. And then at the physical level, how many differences are there? All the pairs of opposites pertain at the physical level. Everything is there, pairs and pairs. So the point being is that a person at the physical level is going to have maximum resistance to the world. No, I like sweet. I don't like bitter. I like this. I don't like that. I like day. I don't like night. All of this at the physical level. So there's a person who operates at this level. They're very antagonistic. They got problems with everybody. Nobody they can get along with, because their demands are so centered at such a low level, and there's so many, that is just ends up arguing with everybody. It's very rare you meet such people. Very rare. Just can't get along with anybody because there's a resistance. He's coming up a resistance all the time. No, this person's not catering to my needs. I can't get this when I wanted to. This is all of that. Physical person. As you evolve to the mental level of your personality, now you find that the differences become slightly less because your attention is on the mind. So now you are functioning or relating or operating within that realm of feelings and emotions. So of course you set up these groups, these certain groups of people that fall into that similar category of emotion. Much easier to get along with people who are of the same emotional strand. It's more pervasive because it's subtler. So you're able to get along well with anybody that is in that band of preference. I know I've got a great group of friends, you know, we all get along. But as soon as another group of friends who has a different emotional structure or frequency comes along, then there's conflict, confrontation. So you can appreciate that the emotional type person is a more identification, as it were, because emotions are more pervasive than physical. Physical is a very gross. Then emotions, less gross, and then intellect. See, now intellect is even more pervasive because it's more subtle. So when we refer to the intellect and a person who is at that level, who's evolved, more evolved, see, they see things more in ideas and concepts. We are all Democrats, or we are all Vedantans. You subscribe to a certain idea, a certain philosophy. You could even go so far as pushing that to a religion. So there's much greater identification because, again, more subtle, more pervasive. So lowest is gross, a physical person. This is – senses, physical desires, needs have to be met. is going to always come into conflict with the world. Person who has evolved to the mental level, far less conflict, because now he can relate to people at an emotional level. Intellectual level is getting there, is able to relate to much vaster numbers, because the world is more Catholic. He sees it that way. So as we move up in subtlety of equipment, we get this less resistance. Right. Now, a person who is able to identify with the self, we're explaining this idea. How does a self-realized person, he loves all beings and all beings love him, because she identifies with the core, which is the same in everybody. That self exists in everybody. See, what is the difference between you and anybody else if you are seeing the self in them as the same self as you are experienced within yourself? What's the difference? There's no difference. There's no resistance at all. There's a complete transference of love, because you completely identify with that person at the level of the self. So this is a self-realized person. He's seeing and experiencing that self. He doesn't see an evil person. He sees the self. He doesn't see a good person. He sees the self. So he's identified at that core level. Therefore, radiates universal love. There's no resistance at all. Therefore, there's no conflict. So the subtler and subtler realms you dive into within the personality, eventually, you see, even at the Vasana level, of course, we can't see the vasanas, but we understand, okay, everyone has got different vasanas. Okay, everyone is different physically, right? Yeah, but that one is black, and that one is white, and this one is gray, and this one is green, and all colors are, and rainbow of colors. Everything is different. So maximum differences are there. Physical level. Less differences, emotional level, less differences, intellectual level, even less differences, spiritual level. When I say spiritual level, how many billion Hindus, how many billion Buddhists, how many billion Christians? That's at that level. Now, how many trillion gazillion creatures, all in living by the self? Then you identify with one and all. Then there's no conflict. Then that love is 100% reciprocated. You love everybody and everybody loves you, including creatures. So if we are going to, depending at the level we choose to focus on, that's going to create the resistance and conflict for us. See, if we only see differences, it's very difficult to relate. No, that person is different. I don't want to get into that. And they are different. The more similarities, the more we're able to identify with people, the easier it is, the less conflict, the less resistance there is. So it's in our interest to attempt to identify with that common feature that pertains to everyone and everything, which is the self. If you can hone in on that, worshipping Tadvanam, if you are able to worship that self in all beings, meditate upon that, worship that devotion, meditate upon that, you become that. Then there's a feeling of oneness, ekam. There's no difference. You have merged with the self, merged with the truth. Any questions? Yes, Vasu.
So, Craig, I can understand the when a seeker starts to improve his higher values, this knowledge, then he gets to a point of growth, and his own maturity of his mind starts to rehabilitate, and he starts to think differently. So, what you mentioned is why we hate and why we have differences, etc. Is can emotions play a role in that? Because most of the time we are on autofocus. We are living in the past or anxious in the future. And as a result, we are not present. And therefore, this brings up a whole lot of emotions, and that can devastate the personality as well. And as a result, you can't focus, you can't concentrate, because awareness is not present. And therefore, it brings up such hatreds amongst amongst people, amongst families, etc. Can that have any bearing to having an identification with one and all?
So you brought up features of the mind, which, yeah, we can't deny those features of the mind, but it's not so much the mind's wandering nature that causes the conflict, but it's that capacity that lies in an ungoverned mind to become attached that creates the conflict at the emotional level. So that's the warring, the fighting, the conflict that exists even between family members is because of attachment. Attachment at the emotional level. That's why even if you evolve to the emotional state, it's still limited. It's very limited because, yeah, as long as people are all catering to you, catering to your demands and self-centered interests, then that's okay. No, they are great. All of these people, in fact, are great. As soon as that stops and your demands are not catered to, then all of a sudden, where's that? Then I hate you now. No, I don't have any time for you. Get away from me. You don't cater to my demands anymore. Out with you. Bye-bye. This is attachment. This is attachment. Opposite of love. So yes, at the mental level, even there, to the extent that selfishness vitiates the relationship, to that extent, it's limited. You're attached. And attachment is the obvious cause of conflict. Any problem you have in any relationship is because of attachment. So yes, we can say, the mind is not present. And yes, that has its own repercussions. The mind cannot focus. That has its own repercussions. But in terms of being able to identify, at a higher level, we've got to rehabilitate the mind to work through these attachments. We've got to convert that preferential relationship of attachment into that universal expression of love. So this is the evolution. How do we do that? By dropping that selfishness, self-centeredness. Again, this is the only reason that people can't get along, because of their own self-centeredness, own selfishness. Why is there such a high rate of divorce? For this exact reason. People have become very self-centered, self-interested, self-absorbed, selfish. And that's why people can't get along. So at the mental level, attachment.
So, Craig, can karma help with this when you perform your actions for a higher cause by alleviating these types of selfishness? So that generates sort of like a love for your fellow follow me.
See, any form of spiritual discipline or spiritual practice will assist, of course. Karma, bhakti, jnana, those are the three prescribed spiritual disciplines. So, of course, karma is going to help you drop that bulk. Bhakti yoga, yoga of devotion, will help in changing the quality of the desires. And jnana yoga will change the direction. So, of course, we are this hyphenated body, mind, intellect, and we have to apply all three disciplines where you can engage in those spiritual disciplines and those spiritual practices. And then you will be evolving, yes. At any level, you practice those disciplines. What softens is the ego. The ego is pacified. The desires are reduced. You are evolving. So it will help. Yes, Pa.
I'm going to talk in percentages, Craig. Let's say I love my guru 100%, but I don't love my brother 100%. Does that decrease the percentage of my love for my guru? Just to give me a sort of a, does it?
So, no, I understand the clarification. No, it depends on, again, what is the strength of a chain? It's the weakest link. So the extent to which you love your brother, let's say we call it 30%. That's actually the level, not the level you claim to love the guru. It's the level at which you, maybe, I'm assuming you said brother, so
Yeah, let's just use brother. Yeah.
Brother, the lowest level you're talking. So that is the level. So it's in your interest to work on that level, is the point.
I can't believe it.
It's easy.
Are you saying that that is the level of my love? I mean, is that what you're saying?
How strong is the chain, Pa? Okay, you got a steel chain, steel links, steel links, steel links, steel links, steel links. One link in that chain is cardboard. How strong is the chain? The chain is not as strong as all those steel metal links. The chain is as strong as that cardboard link. That's the strength of the chain. So that is the strength of your love, the weakest link. Same principle.
I'm flabbergasted.
That's good. That means you understood something. You understood. Now you know where you need to direct your efforts. Strengthening that weakest link.